Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CX Day 2019 Fresh Thinking Panel, Experience Design and Innovation, Unleashing the Power of Customer and Employee Innovation. My name is Derek Iverson, and I am a Membership Community Manager with the CXPA. You can find me at derek@cxpa.org if you have any questions on what it's like to be a CXPA member, because I'm your guy. And for those of you who are CCXPs who are watching, you are eligible to submit 0.5 CEUs for viewing today's panel discussion. So let's go ahead and meet our panelists. So first off, our panel today will be moderated by Shannon Ballard, CCXP. She is the Vice President of Customer Innovation and part of the ownership team at Kelley Marketing, Canada's leading B2B digital performance growth marketing strategy. She is an award-winning marketer with a proven track record for helping organizations position, develop, and differentiate brands to inspire employees and drive growth. Shannon specializes in brand strategy, customer experience, and brand experience, and Shannon has worked with leading brands across North America, including Toyota Material Handling USA, Rockwool, TerraPure, Rivera Retirement Living, and Canadian Tire. Diane Major, CCXP, is a passionate experience transformation executive and change agent. Sherpa for new and developing experience-obsessed organizations, specializes in enabling brands with skills and competencies like design thinking, journey management, and value mapping to drive sustainable shifts in how organizations work to achieve results. With over 25 years of transforming customer and employee experiences working in and with brands such as Cisco, AT&T, Dale Carnegie, Invisalign, Sienna, Equifax, Freeman, Sodexo, Sandy Spring Bank, and MoneyGram. Hassan Mohammad, CCXP, works at the forefront of innovation and growth, creating customer-centric culture change, innovative services, and brand differentiation with a background in engineering, entrepreneurship, and international business development. He has developed his approach over 7 years in practice, working with organizations internationally, and is passionate about cross-cultural collaboration and co-creation. He helps organizations discover the reasons behind their customers' frustrations, create wow moments, and embed a culture that ensures that CX strategy is fully integrated across all levels. Peter Hitt, CCXP, has been specializing in customer journey management education, activation, and technology for over 7 years. With dozens of workshops and events under his belt, Peter is a journey management expert and published thought leader. At Strativity, his primary role is to lead the technology division of Chief Product Officer. And to quote Peter directly, customers and employees simply want transparency, especially when things go wrong. Excellence awaits the few brave companies who pledge never to hide. Sarah is a certified customer experience professional and Lean Six Sigma black belt with over 15 years of leadership experience and proven results achieving through end-to-end management of internationally recognized CX, EX, and performance programs. Sarah Hitt's career has been spent working with team members across organizations from senior to line level to implement experience improvement methodologies, tools, and principles. She solves complex organizational problems by creating disruptive solutions to actively engage customers, both internal and external. And her industry experiences include healthcare, retail, banking, human resources, hospitality, SaaS, and sales. So, as you all can see, we have a very awesome lineup of panelists today to discuss experience design, and I'm excited to get us started. So, Shannon, I'm turning it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, and I am just thrilled to be here today. I'm not sure if you picked up on our panel, but they are literally coming in from around the world. We have Vegas and the UK and across the United States, so we're just thrilled to be able to bring this global thought leadership together today. So thank you, all of you, for joining us. This is going to be great. Are you ready? They're so excited.
We're ready.
It's late for Hassan, so we're going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so why don't we just jump right in with our first question, and that's one that's near and dear to my heart as well, which is really around this idea of why is it important for us to give customers a seat at the table when it comes to redesigning the existing experience or designing a new one. And Hassan, you promised me you would give us a really good response to this one, so I'm going to hand it over to you.
Right. Thank you, Shannon, for the introduction. Well, the reason I think customers need to be involved in designing existing and new experiences is because it helps you to get deeper insights by having the customers right there. and interacting directly with them. It also helps to avoid any internal confirmation bias, or it helps to validate data in real time and really challenge your assumptions. Most times organizations design experiences without having any insight about the customers and being away from them. So having them in line helps you to reduce that time it takes to validate. That's the major benefit of having them in there.
And do you find, this is to the entire panel, do you find that most of your clients are open to including customers in the process?
Short answer is no. It's very, you have to really take a risk and be very well prepared. So there's a lot of times you'll do an internal sort of design session and then try to expand into your clients, so that you don't, you're not airing all the dirty laundry, but you're ready to share enough that you feel honest and transparent. So those that do, you guys definitely have a leg up.
What about you, Sarah? Any insight on this?
Yeah, I think I would just, follow up to Peter and saying, it's definitely more common to see organizations where somebody with influence has a great idea and everybody wants to see that idea successful and they advocate it. Unfortunately, what often happens is we don't adjust or we don't change our approach until the customer's already been negatively impacted. So at the end of the day, it is important to remind others that value is defined by your customer. And when they have that seat at the table and you can take the time to invest and understand what matters most to them and what they actually want and need, you're more likely to get it right the first time and save your organization a lot of time and a lot of money on the back end.
Yeah, Diane, have you had any experience where you have clients who really have had that bias about what they believe their customers really want and need, and then you've engaged actual customers and been able to show them that it's actually completely different?
Yeah, I can share a story about one company that they were kind of down the path already when we started working with them, and they said, well, we know this is the problem when we're trying to fix this in the shipping process. And when we went out and did research and we did kind of ride-alongs with the sales team and all of that, we found out it was completely a different problem. It actually was a packaging problem that was causing a lot of the issues, and that they just wanted the packaging changed, which is a lot cheaper than what they had set out to do originally. So I think you have to really understand what problem are you trying to solve. It's kind of a premise of design, is find the right problem to solve. And that never really happens if you don't dig in and you don't include the customer and what's really going on out there in the world and figuring that out.
And Diane, I think that's a really good point. If anyone needs to take something away from this webinar, it's making sure you really understand what the right problem is that you're trying to solve. And I think that's a really good lead into our next question, which is really about what role can employees at different career levels and different roles play in designing innovative customer experiences? Because I think, to Diane's point, different employees see different problems differently. They identify problems. They're the ones who might be front line with our customers. And unfortunately, as people get more and more senior in the organization, it often means that they're disconnected from the customers and create hypotheses about what's wrong. So, Diane, can you just continue to build on that point? Because I really think you're onto something.
Yeah, it was interesting in one organization, MoneyGram actually, we started with the executive team, teaching them design thinking and actually building the strategy. We used design thinking to help them build their CX strategy. So it was really interesting. But along the way, they learned why it was important and how it was kind of creating the organization to think differently. So there's nothing wrong with pulling them in. And at the very least, they should be there to support when you're doing any type of design work, to support that and be listening and be part of that and contribute. And they should be listening. So we coach them a lot when they come in, that when you walk in the room, it changes the atmosphere and that you need to be participating. But you're also right. The one advantage that you have in bringing different roles in is also you probably have different age groups. So the different types of users, when you're doing journey management, for example, you get to walk through the journey with different perspectives of, myself versus my 18-year-old, for example. And I think it's also like the care team who is all this pent up information about things that they can really, help the organization do, to also just look at that role and say, who has a lot of information about the customers that can help us out? and really share that and bring those things forward. So those are the different kinds of roles, how to bring them in.
Yeah, I would be interested to know if anyone has a great example of bringing in very junior or even call center employees who have a very specific role, who were able to provide an insight as it relates to customer experience design.
I can go. So Sarah, you were like, all right, I'm going to go. Here's one example. So I worked with a furniture company one time doing design and journey management, and we had a workshop that it's always best to include all levels, or as many as you can, and cross-functional teams. Mm-hmm. Like Diane was saying, you want to take the executives and make them participants and not just, sort of big brother in the room. So I had a furniture company who brought in from the CMO down to the delivery drivers. And in that, the delivery drivers were way more valuable than the CMO, I'll tell you that. They had so much to offer. For example, customers having concerns about, them wearing booties when they come in the house, or maybe they didn't watch out for the dog, or didn't say hi to the kids, like things that you wouldn't think of, but those drivers made a big impact. And so there's a very real example that's close to me.
Sarah, did you have one you wanted to build on?
Yeah, well, not so much, I guess, a specific example, but more a broader statement is it's important to remember two of the greatest assets in any company, it's their people and their ideas that the people have. And oftentimes it's your line level, just like Peter said and Diane said, the ones that are closest to the customer doing the work that have the most innovative ideas. And it's very easy to get caught up in our job description or a title. And as employees, we have experiences and skills and talents that extend so far beyond that, that we have a due diligence to speak up and to offer our ideas and suggestion. It's great to have listening posts throughout organizations when there's opportunities to take advantage of things like events or brainstorming sessions. No one should ever let their job title hold them back from getting involved and speaking up when they have customer feedback or they have an idea to share, because everything should be evaluated. I can think every Kaizen event I've ever led, the best ideas came from those frontline team members who worked close to the customer and did the work right there with them. They just needed the platform to be comfortable to speak up and to share those ideas and to bring them to the team.
I love that. And I think a great example for anyone listening who is new to the world of CX is to look at Starbucks and the way they have their online employee idea platform, and now it's expanded to customers as well. So some really great ideas there on how to engage employees at every level to be a part of the process in the ideation and then also the design. So the next question is a really interesting one, and I know you're all going to have a lot to say about this, is what are any ground rules that are helpful for customers and staff in design sessions? And I know every single one of you is going to want to jump in on this one, but we'll start with Peter, and then we'll work way across to the rest of you. So Peter, you want to kick it off?
All right, so here's the thing about ground rules. You're going to have culturally some issues sometimes with different types of cultures where they may not be comfortable with the ground rules, and some are. But I think either way, as a leader, as someone working through this, you've got to hold people to it. And I would say that, for design thinking, you go from intent, problem articulation to, insights and discovery, and then design principles, ideation, concepts. And what's funny is that each of those may have a different timeline and different audience and actually different ground rules. So for me, I'll cover ideation and see what you guys think about the ground rules we have there. So first, it's defer judgment. Second, it's to build on others' ideas. Third, it's to stay focused on the topic. And fourth, to start with a picture. People are really good at getting on board when they see a picture. One conversation at a time. Go for quantity, not quality, especially in ideation. Be as impractical as possible, and write it down. So for design thinking, it's really important to get this big, even an absurd amount of ideas, because you're going to be whittling them down and building on them and different revisions and rounds of that. And Einstein says it best. He says, if at first an idea is not absurd, then there is no hope for it. So I agree with him, and you know, I get the bonus point for quoting Einstein first.
That's great, Peter. Thanks so much. Now, Diane,
Yeah.
I knew you have a lot of experience in this area, so I'd love to hear your perspective.
Oh gosh, I mean, Peter had such a great list. I think one of the things that I would agree with, and those ground rules, is, you know, letting go of what exists, right? So get yourself out of it and really start helping the people kind of think about things differently. So it's sometimes shaking them up, even going to a different location is important, right? To just get them out of that corporate habit of the way that they're thinking. We have a rule always, you know, the yes and instead of but, because oftentimes to get to those ideas, people will go, yeah, but we can't do that. So there's certain rules about even the language that you use that's important. And to that point, when you do have ground rules, I like to put them up and keep them posted and kind of point to them throughout the day to remind people, because it's easy to go through, but they're not there. And then lastly, I think it's also, you know, all ideas, to Peter's point, are important, and we never know where that's going to come from. And so we're kind of on an Easter egg hunt, I call it, throughout the day, because we're looking for those really absurd, crazy ideas, as Peter said, that are going to come there. So giving people permission in all those different ways is important, and validating that their ideas are worthwhile.
I really like what you said about giving people permission. When I'm hosting workshops, I often say, let's not let perfection stand in the way of progress. Let's just focus on moving ahead and trusting the process, and not worry about everything you say being perfect, or everyone, and you know, coming up with the best idea, because we're going to build off each other. Hassan, do you have some things you want to build off on Diane and Peter's point?
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo on what Peter and Diane said first. So when you're doing ideation, I think it's very important, as Peter said, to defer judgment, not get stuck with your own idea, don't get attached to your own idea, and encourage wild ideas, because that's where innovation comes from. And just to have one idea per, if you're using Post-its, you have one idea per Post-it, not more than that. What I would also say is, you know, as Jan said, be inclusive. Everyone has equal worth of ideas, irrespective of their hierarchical position. So make sure that you're inclusive and that you use a range of techniques. So some people may have maybe less expressive, and they may not be so prone to brainstorming. You may have to use something else, like a brain writing technique for them to get the most out of people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, this idea of understanding different people work in different ways. So having them perhaps write on sticky notes alone and then share together, or, you know, different ways of collaborating. Sarah, do you have some ideas?
Well, they covered a lot. The only thing I think of that I would add is there's no such thing as can't. To put creativity before capital, we can always, you know, look at and assess investment and impact after all the ideas are on the table, and everyone gets a voice, and never to leave in silent disagreement, because you may not disagree, you may not speak up, just like Hassan had said, because of other strong personalities in the room. The reality is you probably just see something we're missing, and so it's important to speak up when you don't agree, just as often as you do when you do agree.
And I want to repeat one point you just said, is this idea of you can measure value and impact later.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good one, to allow people the freedom to explore and move forward, and not have to constantly be evaluating, oh my gosh, what's this going to do to my budget, or how's this going to be rolled out? Let's not get stuck on that. So that leads us, I know we've had so much fun today. We could do this all night, but we only have one more question. And that is, what are some of the tools employees and customers can use during these sessions? And what, in your opinion, is the most effective? So Sarah, since you had to go last time, I'm going to hand it over to you first.
Thank you.
That no one steals your ideas.
Oh no, it's idea sharing. Whenever it's a good idea, a lot of people come up with it. I always remind people that it's about the best idea winning, right? So some of my personal favorites that I like to use, and I'm sure just knowing the experience of the others here on the panel, they'll likely talk about these too, would be customer journey mapping, empathy mapping, and value stream mapping. I'm a huge fan of getting things visual. I'm looking at the journey of the customer, because customer-centric design truly is about putting yourself in their shoes and experiencing their world, but then also looking at each of these stages in the design and how is the customer, what are they seeing, how are they feeling, what are they hearing, what are they smelling, what are all these different sensory touch points that are happening along the way, and then stepping back and looking at the flow of the product for the customer. Whatever that job is that has to be done, how it moves throughout the organization, because we're each other's customers too, and really looking at the big picture as well as those small details, and getting the whole group together to walk through that side by side. So those are three of my favorites. I love the empathy mapping personally, because that's the piece that I think oftentimes gets missed when you're thinking about process improvements, is we forget about how we feel along each stage of that process. So getting people to experience that and to talk about that as groups, I think is very powerful.
Yeah, I really think it's important to measure customer experience on three divisions: success, effort, and motion. So how successful are customers able to do what they want to do? How much work is it to do it? And then how do they feel? Can you talk a little bit about value mapping? I think customer journey mapping and empathy mapping is something that a lot of people are probably really familiar with, but this value mapping is less popular.
Sure, and I should clarify, I left out a key word there, but it would be value stream mapping. But it's really looking at, for example, when I worked in hospitality, and you're looking at something as simple as somebody being able to get their coffee at a coffee shop. What are all the things that go into play? Well, it's important to understand what conventions are taking place. It's important to understand what hotel occupancy is. And then when does that marketing calendar get to you? And when people want to go on vacation, how far in advance are they putting their request in? And it's not often that people realize, what I do in this department way over here in this cell, when I push out the marketing calendar, how that has this ripple effect on this one customer who's getting their coffee that expects to get it within 2 minutes, and all of the dynamics that go into play. So with value stream mapping, you're able to put all of those different high-level steps out there, where the team can look at it and really understand what the lead time is for each of these steps, to understand where we need to take corrective action in order to deliver the right product on time to the customer at the point of experience. So it's very high level, and it's a step that oftentimes gets missed. We go through all the fine details, and then stepping back and looking at cross-departmentally how we impact each other with our lead times is also critically important.
And Diane, do you have anything you want to add to this one?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of kind of the things we talk about are those kind of intake and the things people normally use, but I'm a huge fan of future state storyboarding, with the caveat when I tell people, if time, money, and effort is no object, what would you do? So I love to give them something to really dream about, play the Walt Disney, I call it, to do storyboarding and come up with what they could potentially do, because the ideas are really great when you kind of take the reins off for people. I also like a lot of insight generation techniques, and the reason for that is there's a lot of companies that have a lot of data and lots of reporting and information, but they don't know how to generate insights. So why laddering is a technique to kind of break big boulders down into smaller ones, and it really can help you kind of don't sit there with an overwhelming problem. Let's break it down and make sure we can then we can tackle the smaller things. So I really enjoy that one too, as a tool.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, especially with a lot of times clients are collecting a lot of customer data and they feel great about it. And they have people doing surveys and filling things out, but then they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, so what? Like, I should have a t-shirt that says that. So what? Yeah, you got all this great data and you got these scores, but what are you doing with it?
Yeah, that's great. Hassan, what about you?
Right. So I think we discussed a lot of good tools like empathy mapping, journey mapping, value stream mapping. I'd like to add another tool that I find useful. It's called Rip and Mix. So it's an ideation tool that's really helpful. The way it works is that it combines an experience that's negative. So for example, if you have some customer complaints that's a negative experience, you combine that and mix it with a pleasurable experience. So it could be having coffee. And when you combine that, it comes out with an outcome that you can use as an innovative idea. So I find that quite useful in generating quick ideas.
And what's that called again? Can you repeat the name of that?
It's called Rip and Mix. So Rip and Mix. And the other one's called Day in the Life. So that helps to look at your customer's journey outside of how they interact with your business. So how does your customer's day look from morning to evening? You know? So it helps you look outside the boundaries of and find areas for innovation.
I think that's a really good one. You know, customer experience research tells us that one of the easiest ways to improve your customer journey is to move the goalposts on either end of the way you look at their experience. So that's a really good one. Hassan, thank you for mentioning that. Peter.
Yeah, so everybody said some really fantastic things. At first, when I read this question, I was thinking, oh, is this about software tools to support? And I obviously, I think people need to get the methodologies and the techniques down. There's plenty of ways to tackle that later. But the first thing when you think about design thinking and how that's going to help you innovate, any good teacher, leader, a workshop will give you templates, right? So you'll need to have templates for problem articulation and discovery and insights, design principles, ideation, and like concept outlines. So you go through this ahead of time, and you make sure everybody's sort of aligned on how to use these. So that's one, right? That's in itself kind of a tool, is to have templates. But let me jump into like one or two of these examples. So like in discovery, after you've defined the problem, you need to think about, okay, how do we understand more about this problem, right? What are the pain points, the unmet needs? Where do we need to learn more? And so when I have workshops, I'll break people into groups. You know, usually it's usually cross-functional, but we put them in groups, and then we ask someone to be the devil's advocate, especially for this exercise. So when someone brings up a theme of like, hey, this is not working well, this devil's advocate's only job is to do the 5 whys, right? So why not? And then why not again? And are you sure? Why that? And an example I'll share with you is we did this for a pharmaceutical company, and they were having problems with their injectable product or medications. And so their assumptions, but by the way, it had great efficacy. It was a very good drug. And their assumption was, well, people just don't like needles. You know, of course, the injectables are going to be a tough product. But as they did the 5 whys, they came out to find that, you know what, it's simply that an injection represents a progression of their disease state. Yeah. So they were thinking, wow, so it's not that, it hurts a little bit, but I don't want to be injected like, I see on TV or, they have visions of infusion centers. It represented something much deeper of that. Now they feel like they have more of the disease than they didn't before. Another example, another tool. So for discovery, there's often observational research. If you really do kind of go out and do ethnographic, this concept of poems. So if you think about it like as a theater, right? So P would be, the actors. O is for objects. So what are the props, environments, would be the stage. Can you guys hear me okay? I hear some background. Okay. The message is the M. So what is the dialogue? What is the signs involved? And then the S is around things like, okay, the orchestra, the lighting, the services. So what I think is important about this is it gives someone a technique of like POMES, right? And no matter where you are, or what you're trying to learn, you can just kind of rattle that through your head and then take really healthy observations. That's quick.
I think that's some really good. I think that's some really good examples, Peter. And one of the things I love about the CXPA and about customer experience professionals is everyone loves to share. So for any of those people who are watching today and have heard of some of these things that we're talking about, you know, problem identification, empathy mapping, value stream mapping, some of these templates, they're all on Google. And so, you know, use these key terms and go on and search for them. And then, you know, reach out to your network and ask people what their experience is in implementing and using them, because these tools are really going to help guide your workshops and your sessions, and they're tried and true, and other people are using them. And so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Tap into this network of resources that people are already have created and have used. And I think that's a really good starting point. So do any of you have anything else that you want to add as we close this off for today and we'd let people go and eat their lunch and enjoy their afternoon nap?
I would say, if you're talking to people and telling them, you know, why design thinking is important and what, you know, people coming to your workshops, I think there's a really good message to send to them. So I'll give you this as a way to get people engaged, because we always want to get more people engaged. One is to say, this is an opportunity for you to learn more about the organization. And any good executive knows a lot about all the different parts of the organization. So this is on the track of your professional development. And then secondly, this is a highly sought after skill set. So anybody coming to say this is part of how you're going to develop your own career, and knowing this will help you in your career going forward, whether you're with this company or somewhere else. And so I think those, and it's also a good way to get your high potentials in the organization engaged and involved and give them something to do, because you're giving them, again, that skill set, and they obviously are looking to learn new things. So just be thinking about messaging too to people coming to the workshop about it's not just about that workshop and what you did that day, but carrying it forward and how you kind of, as they infect people with how this thinking is a change. It's a change process, and I think it's important to call out. So as you're recruiting people, to have that messaging along with these opportunities.
Yeah, I totally agree, Diane, and I think it's important to say to people, you know, you've been invited because you play a critical role in our customers' journey, and because of that, we want you to be included. Sarah, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with the group?
No, not really.
Okay, Hassan,
No,
do you have anything else?
Yeah,
any words of wisdom before we part ways?
Right. So I just say, you know, design thinking really helps to see the organization outside in, by focusing deeply on what your customers feel. Yeah, it's a really great way of differentiating your business. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much to all of you for your participation today, and we definitely crossed the globe, and I appreciate you and all your great insights. So thanks for a great discussion, and have a great night.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you to the CXPA.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you to everybody. Happy CX Day, everyone.
Thanks.
Happy CX Day.
Yeah, bye now.